Hello and welcome to the first episode of Redmar's Stories I Like But I Do Not Like That Much. Today I am doing Murder on the Orient Express. Murder on the Orient Express is a detective fiction, which is a subgenre of crime fiction. It contains most of the traditional conventions: motive, which is the cause for the villains to commit murder; clues and red herrings, which are clues and evidence, surprisingly, that is misleading to the reader think that someone else committed the crime. Also, this is a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen any film about this or seen the story at all, don't watch this. It's kind of obvious if you haven't, so your fault. There are 5 film adaptations of the story and multiple plays and parodies, including the Doctor Who episode or Peter Capaldi. Of the film adaptations, I'd only recommend watching 2 of them: Agatha Christie's Poirot from 2010 and the Albert Finney 1974 version, which I am analysing in this video. As for the others, I either have not seen them or did not like them, and this is for that reason that I am analysing this film, because despite how there are versions that are newer of this great story, I think people should know which one is worth watching. I am also going to do mini reviews of some of the other film adaptations. The film has a 3-act structure like any film across a linear story. This means that the story moves along in a straight line using the 3 acts: setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. In the film, the setup is the time leading up to the murder, and is well paced and suspenseful. The confrontation is the time after the murder to the time where the identity of the murderer is revealed in true Agatha Christie style, Poirot gathering everyone together and revealing everything he's found out. However, what is the most unique part of this film is the resolution, as in this time the main theme of morality must be answered, and in this case it was answered differently than anything that came before. The murderers get away what they have done, because Poirot decided that they have suffered enough. Unlike many modern day thrillers, Murder on the Orient Express is steady and logical in its tone's setup, as the story only moves along when Poirot does. It does, however, hold the same aspect of tone available in nearly all thrillers, that being suspense. The tone is only different at the beginning, because the film starts out with a very grim news headlines revealing the dark events that front the story, that being the kidnapping of the Armstrong child. Unlike the novel, this case is revealed at the beginning, which for better or worse tells a tonally correct narrative of the case. The rest of the film is bright, however it has a grim subcontext thanks to the opening. I'll start by analysing Poirot. He is likeable despite having a high opinion of himself. He is short and has a moustache, unlike Kenneth Branagh in the new version. As you can tell, I don't like the 2017 version at all, as it removes some of the more interesting scenes for plain pointless action. Anyway, this story definitely gives Poirot a character arc, unlike some of the other Agatha Christie books where he is present. This is due to the fact that the events leading up to and after the murder are different from events from previous stories. This is because Poirot is placed in the suite right next to where the murder happens. This makes Poirot interesting, as even though he believes himself above most in intelligence, he realises he has no clue how this tale will end, and that frightens him, which I reference from the angry outburst that he has regularly during the film. In film, there are 5 character roles commonly used: the protagonist, the leading character, the antagonist, the opposition to the protagonist, the mentor, wise person who gives advice, love interest, which is kind of self-explanatory, but it is the person the protagonist or antagonist falls in love with, and the reflection, which is to be contrasted with the protagonist so that we can see how they were at the beginning and how they have changed over the story. Unlike some adaptations of Agatha Christie's work I have seen, this film decides to have Poirot at the forefront. This film also changed the entire idea of character structures. Is Poirot the main protagonist since he's on camera most? The answer is actually no. at least for the first half hour. The real protagonists for this time are the 12 murderers. This is for one reason. At the time before the murder, Poirot has no real goals besides getting to Calais. However, the murderers do in their plan to kill Ratchett. This is one of the great things about this story, that it actually is two stories being told at once. For the time before the murder, Poirot is just an extra. But when the event occurs, all roles are changed. The murderers become the antagonist, and Poirot becomes two roles, the protagonist and the mentor. In the end, he is the mentor because he teaches them all about morality, and its costs being viewed as the wise man. Themes. The film has three main themes: love, justice, and morality. The first two usually trend in most films, so we'll focus on the third. Morality is brought up as an existential question that Poirot asks everyone once he's discovered everything. And when I say everyone, that includes himself. This idea of moral questions that must be answered by one man make the climax resolution pay off well, as they are answered. This meant that there are no overhanging questions at the end. How is the question answered? Poirot reveals that actually the murderers had some right in ending their suffering by killing Ratchett. As this can be viewed differently from many philosophies, the morals do not change from any of the different adaptations, as they remain the same, apart from the 2010 film, which does make Poirot slightly more different than in the previous books, films and adaptations, where he immediately lets them go, and instead opts for him having a slight change of thought at the end, as he is actually going to reveal that the 12 people did do the murder. Although I do like the 2010 film adaptation, I still find it kind of weak in those respects, because it's just not like Poirot. Thank you for watching this critical analysis of Murder on the Orient Express. I hope you enjoyed.